challenging ET in general out
Oh
in the middle
yeah,
of
that's what
nowhere?
I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off when I was having this fit. I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network. Welcome to UFO Undercover, with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to UFO Undercover. I hope you're all having a great morning, great evening, great afternoon, wherever you are on our big, beautiful blue planet. You know, I love being here on Wednesday nights. My favorite place to be on Wednesday. Favorite place to be anytime during the week, actually. I have a good time, like coming up and chatting up with my friends, talking about different subjects. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, well, what in the past could be God and what in the past could be ET. Well, I don't want y'all to get too warmed up here, but really and truly, what is it? I mean, we were talking about this on Friday's show. It came up, Emily and Trish and I were talking about it, and, what is God? What is ET? What is in between somewhere? It's a hard thing to figure out because, a lot of so-called miracles could have been something from extraterrestrials. A lot of what from extraterrestrials could have been something from God. So who's right and who's wrong? Well, of course, the biblical people are always going to say they're right, but they have no basis of proof at all. So it's kind of a tough thing. Hold on, let me turn it down so I can see it but not hear it. It's a tough basis. Really and truly, it's a tough thing to make that call because, it's like I was picking on Emily about this because she has PhDs in the biblical world. Man, I'm tongue tied tonight. In the biblical world, and the thing of it is I told her on the air, it's like, well, I don't consider them real PhDs because I don't consider religion to be real. I consider it, basically canon fodder written by man for the control of man. See, it's a little different for me because I don't necessarily believe that God wrote the Bible or even inspired the Bible, or Jesus for that matter, because everything was written so far after the fact that it kind of worries me a little bit. So what is it? I mean, we can go back to the Old Testament. There's some clear things in there that you could say were God, or you could say were extraterrestrial part in the Red Sea. But could ET part the Red Sea? I'm pretty sure they could. Could they walk in water? Well, we know they've done that. We've had witnesses to that. Can they cure with the wave of a wand? Well, guess what? They can. So See, that's where the differences get so close together. Where is it? What is it that separates? Could they look, like an angel? Well, they could. We found out somewhere in our early studies that a lot of people's, well, you know how people have their own, like their Indian or their dragon, their spirit guides, yes. But we found that a lot of spirit guides were actually extraterrestrials just projecting themselves. It was another way for them to project control over the individual. I know. So a lot of this, not just God or anything in between or ET, there seems to be a lot of control exerted from both sides. ET seems to be putting a lot of control on their contactees and abductees and whoever they need to get whatever agenda they're trying to get done. Also, religion seems to be the same way. Do as I say or burn in hell. That's pretty much control. Well, I was taught that God was omnipotent, all the entire universe, and omnipotent God is everything. And he's omnipotent, but he's also kind and loving and caring. Well, a lot of what the Bible describes, that's not the God they describe. They describe a vengeful, spiteful, bitchy God. Oh, don't take my word for it. Just go read it. Oh, yeah, oh, yes. Did y'all forget about the flood already? And there's lots of other things in there that God seemed to be, a little bit spiteful about. Did you read the brother Cain's? I mean, you should read before you comment. Anyway, there's lots of stuff out there that could be considered vindictive or even spiteful. And that's in the Bible itself. See, I got a fundamental problem with that. Now, I could believe that was aliens saying shit like that. But the creator, why would the creator even lower him or itself to that? He, she, or it. Yeah, well, we're not going to do pronouns tonight, but he, she, or it. Whatever it was. Why would it lower itself to that standard? That's a human standard. See, and that's another problem. So humans have a tendency to do this with everything. So with extraterrestrials, they try to bring it to a human standard. Well, ETs are way smarter than us, way brighter than us, way faster than us, and act and do things differently and think in a different way than we do. Well, so does the creator. The omnipotent super being also does that. He, she, or it creates, and we don't understand how it creates. We don't understand anything about it other than it existed and supposedly created the universe and us. So, I mean, these are things that are so far beyond the human understanding. It's just kind of funny. But yet we're going to try to not only label it, but control it and say, this is how it is. I've said this many times to many different people when we were arguing about religion. Don't limit the creator. That's a sure way to get to hell. If you believe in hell and the creator, limiting the creator is a sure way to get to hell. Yeah, that's saying, oh, well, the creator couldn't do that. Well, yes, the creator can do everything. Created the universe. Created us, created life. So it can create anything. So, by saying that, but now here we got extraterrestrials that seem to be visiting the planet that seems to be able to create life and cure with waving a wand. They can cure by thought. Yes, by pure thought they can cure. By touching you, they can cure. They can do hands-on. There's lots of ways they can walk on water. Who said that? No, they can walk on water. Oh, aliens have been many, many, many times. The Greys especially. They've been video shot a couple of times, but they've also been seen by some people, mostly abductees, but they'll hang out below the ship with a group of dolphins. And I remember under hypnosis, one of the ladies we had under hypnosis was speaking, reciting, I guess, a Grey dialect, probably a past Didmung since they're usually telepathic now, but it sounded a lot like dolphin. I'm not saying they were dolphins. It just sounded a lot like dolphin. There's like clicks and beeps and pops. When we put it underwater, it even sounded more like that. So it was a strange feeling all the way around. Jimmy, hold on. I gotta move these messages over so I can see them. Well, I also gotta put the comment box on StreamYard. Oh, by the way, we are streaming live on Roku. You can see my magnificence on Roku tonight live. Mm-hmm. Yes, that just scares the hell out of me. That means everything behind me, you'll be able to read the titles in the books. It's a really cool thing. Not all our hosts will be on Roku. Hopefully all of our hosts will be on Roku, but no, I don't think they all will be. But it is required to be video, and you have to have your stuff together, have to enjoy it, and So you can see us on Roku. I am live right now on Roku. Matter of fact, Michelle DeRoche, who will be following me later this evening, she will be live on Roku tonight. Some of our hosts are not thrilled with being on. I was watching Sean Kelly last night on my 65-inch TV in my bedroom. I got anyway. It's just really clear. It's crisp. The pictures are crisp. The sound's crisp. It's really nice. So you can see your favorite host up close and personal. Yes, Denise, I am not wearing a tie tonight. I would tell you why, but it's need to know only, insider information. No, I don't always do. Sometimes I wear the vest instead of tie. Sometimes I wear both. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be headed to Writers of the Future in April, so I'm just getting my brain together for it. And to a good friend of mine, if you're listening tonight, I'm going to wear all white in Writers of the Future this year, no colors. Yeah, I might bring this on my purple shirt, but that's it. Everything else is going to be white. Business white. It's one of them things. I know it had nothing to do with aliens. So anyway, getting back to what we were talking about. So let's go back 6,000 years. Okay, womb. Now remember, we're not talking about God until 2,000 years ago. So we're going 6,000 years back. So we're 6,000 years. The Sumerians are doing their things. Both the Egyptians and Sumerians are on the uprise. They're becoming civilizations. The Sumerians talk about visitors that came here, built some I think it was 2 great dome cities. Most of the speculation is because they don't think the people who came here could breathe our atmosphere. So anyway, they enclosed their cities and created a subspecies of themselves. I shouldn't even say a subspecies, it's the exact same species, except they could breathe the atmosphere on our planet. So they went out and started, I guess, I don't want to call it colonizing because it doesn't really look like they were colonizing. It looks like they were more like maybe, but terraforming. I don't think they were doing that either. It looks like they were here to extract minerals. So they found the indigenous population, which back then was not much more than monkeys. They didn't want to have to do their work. Remember, these are omnipotent super beings. So they're not necessarily wanting to go get dirty either. Even though the first race created them, they're still the same as the first race. So the first race of humans that came here, they're still the same. So they're like, well, let's just create a race that's going to get out there and get dirty. So that's what they did. They went about what Sumerians call the 7 creations of man. Anywhere from bird-headed men. It's kind of like the Egyptian stuff, bird-headed men, dog-headed men, just different types. And then the last one was a race like us, not exactly like us, a little stockier, a little shorter, a little smaller cranium, but still us. I mean, it was our foundation. It's who we. If you want to talk about missing links, that's probably the missing link. So at that time, they created this species. And this species went out and was mining the mines and plowing the fields. And they were procreating, having kids and making meat and the whole 9 yards. But that's all they were doing. They weren't doing anything else. They didn't ask their visitors why they had to do this. Matter of fact, they didn't even know they were visitors at the time, probably because they had seen them all their lives because they were their creators. So, they were just doing their thing. And then you get some. Now, we're going to skip a little bit. We're going to skip over. So we're going to stop the Sumerians a minute. We're going to skip over to the Dogon. So here we have the Dogon around the same time frame talking about, and actually it wasn't called the Dogon at this particular time frame, but around the same time talking about Nemos, who used to come in a saucer, like an elongated saucer. It landed in the lake, and then they came walking out. In the very beginning, it was 2 reptoids, and then it became more. But they came out and taught them how to do advanced surgery and all sorts of stuff that's in their history. Told them about the dog store because they must have had a colony there or something. And then the Dogon must have told them, because the Dogon are supposed to be like an offshoot of the Egyptians. They split very early on. So they told them about what the Sumerians were doing, or, what was going on in Samaria. So out of the blue, and we don't exactly know for 100% why, these reptilians used to go down to the Sumerian villages, steal the women, take the women off, rape the women, and bring them back pregnant. And what you get from most descriptions that you can find, and there's so very few, there is a little bit of writing in Egyptian that you can find around the time frame. Some of the Sumerian, and then there's the Dogon. So there is some correlation to what was going on here. But anyway, so we find out about these aliens. So these aliens go over and start stealing and raping the women. Now, this is a double-fold thing. So if you go back to the pharaohs, some of the pharaohs were born with elongated heads. Now, this is a human alien. The human type aliens look like us from the front. They're even built like us. Well, they're stockier than us, but they look like us. But their head actually goes back further. It kind of goes up a little bit and back further, about a foot further. They get about at least twice the size of the brain we have. So, we start seeing these in the pharaohs, just in the pharaohs. Remember, this wasn't all over Egyptian. It just seemed to run in the pharaohs. And then modern day science has said it's all kind of stuff. It's this, that, and the other thing. But it just seems to be peculiar. That's what the Sumerians talked about. And later on is what the Nazcans talked about, which we'll get to later. So anyway, we have these races, these species all going around at the same time. They all existed. They were all living. You can argue who came first, Sumeria or Egypt, because in the beginning, Sumeria had the first written language, and then they found something called the Zero Dynasty Egypt, which may be the first. I don't know. So anyway, it's not what we're talking about tonight anyhow. But so we find these things. We find these new children being born. And really, when I heard these accounts, I thought the children, they were going to be like disfigured or some type of reptoid, human toy kind of thing. And that's not what they were. They looked just like their parents. They looked like humans. They didn't look like reptilians. But there was a significant difference. They were ornery, cranky, much more intelligent, seemed to want to know why they had to go out and plow the fields, what they were going to get out of it. Why were they doing all this labor? Why were millions and millions of them dying and doing this, that, and the other thing and not getting anything in return? Probably was the end of the Sumerian nation when this happened. But the reptilians brought sentient to these people. It's full consciousness, full sentient, not this half-ass sentient they had before us. I mean, technically they were sentient because they could breed, they could procreate, and they could do certain things. But one of the biggest things about being a sentient being is you can ask why. And this race did not seem to have that basic function to be able to ask why. It just took whatever it was told and did it, and without any thought, it just did it. Well, we now know, and people hate when I talk about this, but we now know every human has a reptilian section in their brain. Now, I could pull it up and read it to you if you'd like, and maybe later on the show I will, because sometimes I do it, but it's a significant part of who and what we are. A very significant part of who and what we are. So you should really check into it. If you really want to know who you are and what your basis is of how you do things, some of your driving factors come from that section of your brain. Without it, we seem to be a wishy-washy, wimpy little whatever ever race that people can do whatever they want to, or aliens could do whatever they want to. So now, and this is what gets interesting, so now we have two alien races on the planet. We also now have a hybrid race that humans that now have whatever their original, whatever the Sumerians originally used to create them, plus the Sumerian DNA and now the Greys DNA. I mean, not the Greys DNA, the reptilians DNA. So we have a hybrid race here with two alien DNAs in it. Kind of interesting. I mean, so the race might have been why we found so many weird O parts back in the day, because some of these people may have far exceeded what their level of intelligence should have been. So it would make sense. Actually, there's an O part. I got to find it, but I just seen it the other day. I wanted to mention tonight. It's anyway. So you now have a much more intelligent species. You have a species that can build the pyramids. You have a species that can do all sorts of things. Well, these were all going into Egyptians, the Egyptian slaves and everybody else, and slowly but surely they started interbreeding into all the humans on the planet. But that's not us. That's close to us today, but there is something missing from us today. So, a lot of us have the reptilian, well, we all have the reptilian DNA because we all have the reptilian section in our brain. And the Sumerian is the base DNA, so we all have that. But then some of us, not all of us, but some of us have Gray's DNA. So we're still not even close to the time that Christ got here. This is still 4,000 years away. All of this is going on, and the birth of Christ is still 4,000 years away. The pyramids are being built, races are falling and collapsing, the Roman Empire rises. I mean, there's just lots and lots and lots and lots and lots, and there's lots of stuff all throughout those histories that suggests aliens were openly and openly influencing the people on this planet. I guess maybe because they figured they were kindred spirit, they shared a common DNA, so they figured they could. but they were openly influencing our citizens on this planet. And then around 300 years before Christ, the Greys show up, as best we can tell. It's the first time we can find them in any Egyptian text anywhere, and it's the only text. It's the only place we can. It's the first text we can find them anywhere. By the way, so it's when you go back, that's where you see the Greys first. You don't see them anywhere else. They're not. You can find them much later than that, all over the place, but prior to the birth of Christ, about 300 years before the birth of Christ, the Greys show up out of nowhere. They just show up and instantly start getting involved in everything that's going on. It looks like they started taking command of what the reptilians and the humans were doing, the Sumerians were doing, or whoever they were. They started telling them, no, you're going to do it like this. They started taking control of the abductions, started tracking the family lines much closer. So this is when they intervene. Now, this might be when we end up with Rh negative blood. We just don't know. Before that, though, the races we were talking about before that, well, Rh positive, brown hair or brown eyes and dark. They could be brown hair or black haired somewhere up in there, but that was about and usually brown skinned. I doubt there was even a white person around at this time. So we have this whole group of citizens just blooming of what we would consider the cradle of civilization, which is North Africa. But yet, it seems to come to a halt. So the Greys show up 300 years before. Jesus is born. Jesus dies. All in what, 36 years? 37 years, 30. Anyway, boom. Everything changes. So the reptilians go from being revered and worshipped around the planet to being hated around the planet. Even the big-headed aliens started being hated, so they couldn't be open like they used to be. With the birth of the super god, it seemed to change things. Because remember, this was going on prior to Christ. I mean, yes, it was going on. Who said that? No, it was going on before Christ because we have the Old Testament. Muslims are older than Christians. So it's Jews are older than Christians. Stop it. It was going on before this. But for some reason, at this particular time, 2,000 years ago, actually 2,023 years ago, there was a significant change. And the significant event that everybody points back to is the birth of Christ. Now we know because of the Jews and Muslims and the Romans that he did live. People try to argue it, but he's mentioned in the Roman writings. He's mentioned by the Jews, and he's mentioned by the Muslims. So if the man didn't exist, why bother talking about it? And they're talking about him, period, back in the time when this was going on. Not like the Christians do 200, 300, 400 years later. The Christians talk about, the New Testament Christians talk about the Bible only from the New Testament forward. As far as they're concerned, the Old Testament didn't even exist. Don't let them lie to you because they don't believe anything in there. Mainly because they can't go to heaven if they believe the Old Testament. So they're going to stick with the new one. So anyway, we see a major change, a major influence. Now, that's a good mark where people could say, okay, that was definitely some super God person came down here and that's what changed everything. Okay, true. And it would have changed everything in the Middle East. But that's not how it was. It changed everything. It changed everything out into all around the planet. It changed everything out. It was almost like a wave that went around the world. That's the only way I can best describe it. It just seemed to be radiating out there. So was it when the Greys showed up or was the birth of Christ? Well, it's hard to say. But again, the birth of Christ seems like it would have immediately affected the Middle East and maybe trickled into Africa and the Mediterranean. The Greys, on the other hand, were abducting people all around the world, completely around the world. Wait, what? What? I'll find that. But they said no. Anyway, I can't talk about that right now. But I'll tell you what later in the show. I was just reading something somebody typed because they were supposed to be getting something. So everything's changing here. Everything's wanting to switch around. But the Greys would have been ahead of that because they would have been already, 300, 400, 500 years on the planet. The reptilians and humans had already been here at least 10,000 years or more. So they were long ahead of the birth of the super being. They were way ahead of the super being. Unless Jesus himself was an astronaut, they were way ahead of the Son of Christ, which doesn't mean anything because, God works in mysterious ways and things change as things go along. But now we jump to the other side of the world. So now we have, for 4,000 years, we've had the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Incans, and the Toltecs building massive civilizations. Some of these civilizations just completely disappeared. They couldn't even find, there was nothing even racked out about the cities. There was still dishes there. It was interesting. There were places where they could find in chairs and places they were finding. I forgot what kind of DNA they called it, but it suggested that there was no disease in the city. It wasn't something that was some disease that racked it off. And the fact of it was disease, they wouldn't have left personal belongings behind. And at the time, they were the superpower, so it wasn't nobody running them off. So what happened to them? And they're not the only ones. There's Native American tribes. There's several different Mesoamerican and Native American tribes that just disappeared. Poof, they're gone. No evidence of what happened to them. Can't find anywhere they moved off. Because one thing about tribes or things like this, they have their own personality. So when they go to a new village or a new land, they're going to bring part of that personality with them. So you will actually see that in the structure that village as it turns into a city and stuff, but you don't see that anywhere. You only see it where it was in Mesoamerica, whether it was a Toltecs, the Toltecs built a massive empire. And then I think the Mayans, Incans, and Aztecs just kind of learned from that. Well, what is it? I can't pronounce the name of the city. It's the one that's the backdrop to Mexico City. So there's a massive city there behind Mexico City, and there's a massive mountain range behind it. Well, the city, I can't say it, but it actually mirrors the mountain range. It's a fabulous place to go. It's got all kind of interesting, scary stuff you can find there. So all through Mesoamerica, this is going on. While Europe is starting to become alive. We had the Romans just going. Hey, Marty, you have the Romans coming into power, or actually going out of power. So why the civilizations of Southern America, South America, and Central America were growing? You had a whole different power on the other side of the world. You had the Greeks and the Romans versus the Toltecs and the Mayans. I mean, this is two entirely different worlds. They believed in entirely different things. They dressed differently. They acted differently. Their cities were entirely different. But yes, both were very advanced. They were, great in making metal, refining gold, great astronomers, road builders, aqueduct builders. Both civilizations were. So what's going on here? It's almost like someone was doing experiments. Oh, let's try this here. Or let's try. It's like one of my favorite episodes of Stargate. It's like, let's try this here. Let's try this here. It just seemed to be a little weird. And then, boom, all of a sudden we hear about the Nazcans. The Nazcans are building these massive, massive things you can only see from the sky. You have to be at least 500 feet up to even see the whole damn drawing. And they're done so well. Then we find out they're tying their children's boards to their children's heads to shape their heads like they're gods, which coincidentally were long going back. They weren't like the Greys. They weren't like the reptilians. They were like the human aliens. So now we know that the human aliens for sure messed with the Egyptians, the Nazcans. Yeah, the Egyptians, the Nazcans, and the Sumerians. That's what it looks like. So that's some big civilizations there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I can't tell you. It really seems like the Mayans, the Toltecs, the Incans, and the Aztecs all seem to maybe be more along the reptilian line. Well, most of their gods they believed in was some type of reptilian or snake or something, and they were very powerful, but they were not evil. So you would think reptilian evil, but that's not how their gods weren't like that. What's the snake god? The snake god, the sun god. He's the snake with the sun around his head. It's all of these gods were reptilians for them, and still. And then you've got the Native Americans. So this is another confusing thing. We all came over in a land bridge, right? That's what we were taught. So why is the Mesoamericans so much more advanced than the Native Americans? Why is that? I mean, they're way more advanced than Native. Don't get me wrong, I'm part Native, but compared to the Mesoamericans, the Native Americans were ass backwards. Yeah, maybe with just exceptions of the ones who build the Pueblos, but other than that, I just stopped seeing them. I was in Colorado just recently, but it's weird. And why is it that South America and Central America is 98% O blood type? So they were way more advanced than the Native Americans. They was at least advanced as the Romans and all the rest in Europe. And the majority of them were O, I mean, I'm sorry, O, I'm not O, just O. Just O. The majority of them were O. So what the hell is that about? 98%? You don't see that anywhere else in the world. Anywhere else in the world, you see like 36%, 35%, 33%, 7%, 1.5%. That's what you see because that's the average blood types. Not here, you don't. And not North America, just Central America and South America is 98% O. They built 4 of the greatest civilizations to ever exist. I don't know, guys. And they were pre-Christ. So they carried through. The Romans sort of carried through. They collapsed, about 200 years AD? 300 years AD, somewhere around there, after having a huge empire for eons. They collapsed. And then, if you go backwards to the burning of Alexandria, that library at Alexandria, God knows what we lost there. That probably set us back 500-600 years. But then we find stuff in the Mesoamerican areas that some of the astronomy stuff the Mesoamericans did was just unbelievable. And some of the monuments they built was just unbelievable. I really don't. Sometimes I kind of wonder, who all was messing with us. Well, it's a good chance that they were put there, especially since they're 98% O, and to see how they would come out, what they were going to come out. Well, I never found out if it's a negative or positive. It's not on the. I'll have to go look, but I don't think it's on the list. It's still on the ICAR. It's ICAR1.com. It's still on that website. The findings are still on that website. But they never make the jump to Jesus. So Jesus is in Africa. Well, don't get mad, people. The Middle East is in Africa. I seen that smart ass comment come out. Yes, it is. The Middle East is in Africa. It's in North Africa. I don't know why people get offended by that. I really don't. But anyway, so yes, it's starting to affect the areas there. And remember, it was squeezed in between the Jews and the Muslims. So it was having a hard time even getting started. It had to get to Europe to get started. Oh yeah. And then it was like a flame. It just took off. Just like burning through the scrub. It just took off. But still, it hadn't got to America. It hadn't got to this side of the world until, Columbus, right? Even though, no, the Vikings found America first. They just didn't stay long enough. But Christianity didn't get here until, Columbus brought it and the colonists brought it. And then the colonists didn't teach it to the Indians. They beat in their heads and killed them if they didn't learn it. So anyway, the point being is an entire side of the world didn't know who Jesus was. So everybody tells me all the time he's this awing figure. Okay, I can buy that. Well, why did only not even the whole other half the world know it? No one really knew in the bottom of Africa. It was the Middle East and Europe for a long time. So what the hell is that about? See, when people try to force religion on me, I'm kind of like, well, wait, man, some stuff just doesn't add up. So you're the son of God and you're born. I would think the whole entire planet would know it. I would think that something out there would push it through the entire planet. Now, somebody the other day said, well, it was only the civilized world. I said, well, the Mesoamericans were pretty civilized. Even though they like to throw people down the things and rip their hearts out, they were still pretty civilized. And maybe Christianity would have helped civilize them faster. Well, I guess it really didn't. It took a long time for it to get steady in South America. No, it's there now, but it was a hard fight. Point being is it wasn't this thing we were all taught to believe. It was something entirely different. It was more like a way. It was just like any typical religion. It started and it grew a little bit and got a little popular and started, got a little popular and started, and got a little popular. And then I noticed, which irritates the crap out of me, is how much stuff in the Bible came before the Bible. And before anybody says, no, Jesus lied, no, Jesus had nothing to do with this. Jesus just said what he said, and then everybody who wrote it down, and then it got interpreted, 176 years later when they wrote it. And since we don't get to see the originals, we don't, and then remember, especially with the Christians, there was a lot of epistles that didn't make it, or I shouldn't even call them, that didn't make it into the Bible. There's lots of stuff written that didn't make it into the Bible. Yes, lots. Yeah, a lot more. The Bible should be about twice the thickness as it is right now. And we know that for a fact now, but still, we're not going to hear any more about it because none of the religious people, especially the Christians, want to talk about it. You know, it's weird, Tamara, because Tamara, when you look at Mesoamericans and South Americans, Mesoamericans and Native Americans, we know they share a common ancestry. And it does look like that they went down to the bottom of the South America, then came back up to here. But then we also know that there was Native Americans living in America when the Mesoamericans were at their peak. So it gets a little, and then there was two different places there were Spanish helmets found in caves in the United States, which suggests that that the Spaniards didn't make it up there, but the Mesoamericans did, or the Native Americans made it down there. Either way, somewhere along the line, they hooked up together and did it. But then there's a little weirdness to all of this. Just a little weirdness, because Native Americans are not 98% O. Uh-oh. Which means a good chunk of them do not share an ancestry with the ones in South America. That just confuses everything even more. It's almost like this group in South America was just put there. Maybe it was a test group. Maybe, a lot of people seem to think that. Maybe it was a control study. I don't know what the hell it was, or is, I should say, because it's still like that. It just seems to be different. And maybe at one time they figured they were going to be the ones that rose to power, but instead it was the Europeans and the Americans. And maybe one day South America will take its place where it belongs. But I don't know. But I find it weird because I was taught in school that the Mesoamericans and the Native Americans were the same people. I didn't learn until later on when I found out. Sorry about that. My alarm just went off. Sorry, guys. That is my full alarm. It's not playing with y'all tonight. It's on. It's but the Native Americans turned out not to be the same as the Mesoamericans. That 98% blood type should flow through all Americans. I mean, all Native Americans. It should be the same. And it's not. It's only like 36%. So it's a big difference. It's about the same percentage as everybody else in the country. White people, black people, Hispanic people. It doesn't, not Hispanic people, Chinese people. It doesn't really seem to matter. It all seems to be in that particular function. So it's a weird thing that just too many little things that just don't fit. Well, I do. I think they were advanced. I think, unfortunately, I don't know. I guess when the Spaniards came, they lost that step hold they had, but it was because they were, believe it or not, it wasn't because they were vicious killers and stupid. They just fell for the Spanish bullshit, and that got them in the end. And you might be right, Tamara. There might be somebody missing. There might be somebody in I think it was Marty. She was there. I'm pretty sure she was, but there might be somebody missing in between. It's just strange because you do see some similarities in Native Americans from some of the stuff you've seen in the Mesoamerican. But then again, after that, I mean, the Native Americans lived in teepees. They were nomadic. The Mesoamericans lived in great cities and were not nomadic. They built roads and aqueducts and had big aquifers and all kind of stuff. They were very advanced, and the Native Americans just weren't there. And the sad part is I want to say the sad part, but it doesn't seem like the Native Americans were wanting to go there. So, from what I get from most of history, the Native Americans seem to be happy with the way they were when the Europeans got here. Little tribal wars, little land skirmishes. They didn't go down in South America. They just messed around. And they had the whole entire America in Canada, and they seemed to be quite happy until we came along, or I should say the Europeans came along and screwed everything up. But there did seem to be a line between them and the Mesoamericans. So it's almost like Mexico or the bottom of Mexico, the top of Mexico was like a line. It was almost like it was a buffer zone. You can't go past this point because they didn't seem to go past the point. There's just not much findings of any Native Americans in South America or Central America or North America, in which I mean in Mexico. Well, we talk about South America a lot, but Mexico was part of the great empires, and it's a North American. Yes, don't even start. Don't start. Yes, Mexico is North America. You know, the three North American countries are what? What? They're what? They're Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Just in case you didn't know. We can get into all that little stuff with Cuba and all that later, but we're talking about the North American continent. That's what it is. It's America, it's Canada, and it's Mexico. And once you get to the bottom of Mexico, technically, yeah, you're into Central America, and then you go down to South America. But the Toltecs, Mayans, Aztecs, and Incans spanned the whole entire thing. All of that was theirs. It just seems to be different. It's almost like somebody was saying, okay, let's see how this goes. So if we go back to the Naskins, we know that it seemed to be the human type aliens were messing with them. If we go to the Aztecs, for sure, it seemed to be like, maybe even the Incans, it does seem to be like reptilians were there. Now, there are some pieces of artwork down there that's later on, around the turn of around 5 or 10 AD, maybe 100 AD, somewhere around there, that seemed to be gray stuff. So maybe all three got in there, but for some reason, it just kind of stopped. And then the Spanish found them, and it went haywire. And then they found found America, and then everything changed for everybody. The Mesoamericans lost their culture. They collapsed. The Native Americans collapsed. Neither one could, and there were so many of them. That's what's so funny about this. It's not like the Europeans came in hundreds or even millions of people. They came in thousands. There were millions of Native American Indians, millions of Mesoamerican. They could have easily, like when, what's his name, went, Constantino went looking for his gold. The armies of the Mayans were huge. Huge. They just thought he was the white god, so they didn't kill him, which they should have killed him. But, they had huge armies. They had armies that would rival any army in the world. But no, they didn't do it. Why? You got to just wonder. And you got to wonder why no one's risen in those areas since. Now, they're all broken up into different countries now. So why hasn't anybody risen since then? Why are we still stuck there? Why did the Native Americans give in so easily to the white man? I don't know. I wasn't there. In the end, it was just because the Europeans started. Once the Europeans got to a certain point with all their guns and weapons and stuff, it was over with. The natives never had a chance. Yeah, they did, and it was right. You made a good point, Denver. It was right as they were starting to decline, but they were filthy, stinking rich with gold all over the place. It was just weird. There's so many rise and falls of big nations down there, and it's not because they were fighting. See, it's different. So in Europe, a lot of times it was problems with fights. So the Greeks were conquered by the Romans. Eventually, the Romans were harassed so much by Genghis and his people, they ended up collapsing. And the Romans collapsed for two reasons. One, they were being harassed by them, but the Romans were where America is kind of today. Fat, lazy, sassy, no real weaponry like we have to back to defend ourselves. So eventually they just collapsed. Rome really collapsed more on itself than anybody who tried to beat it. It really was its own worst enemy. And America is doing the same damn thing. nations rise and fall. And there's been lots of them since the start of mankind, and there'll probably be lots more. Since I've been alive, there's been a half dozen of them that have risen and fell. So you got to wonder, what is it with this alien? So, like I said, we go back 6,000 years. That seems to be when civilization started rising. Now, it was probably longer than that, because recently we found those sunken cities off the coast of India. They date back to 12,000 years. It's 10,500 BC. So that would be 12,523 years. That's how old those cities date back to. Big cities. They had 250,000 or more people living in them. Aquifers in them look like rolling bathrooms. These were big cities. Probably a tsunami, or either the rise in seawater or a tsunami did them. So it's funny to me. I was listening to this guy bitching me out yesterday about rise in seawater. I said, you do know, dude, there's lots of underwater cities, right? He's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, I know there's 2 off the coast of Cuba. We know for a fact. 1 off the coast of Japan. There's quite a few of them in the Mediterranean area. I said, have you ever stopped to think that the water's been rising? We're just figuring it out now. I said, we're blaming us for it. But if you go back in time, it looks like it's been rising for some time. Or we wouldn't be finding these sunken cities all the time when a tsunami goes over. Well, there's several. I mean, you'd have to look it up, but I know there's more than 20 or 25 sunken cities around the world that you can go dive. So, and then right there off where the library in Alexandria, there's not a sunken city out there, but there's all kind of sunken other things around it that used to be there before the city, because the city's been going under. Same thing with Venice. It's it's weird too, because when you drag India into this, which is a whole different thing, they seem to have been in contact, and they seem to be one of the other races, like some of the some of the Mesoamerican races that didn't seem to have a problem, or even the Sumerian race that have a problem with contact. It was weird to me, because when I look at all of this, it does seem to be that there has been open contact with the daily people around the world. We know that there's definitely been contact with like the pharaohs and stuff like that, and the rulers of different countries. But it seems like when you listen to people's stories, it seems like that they were open amongst us. They moved amongst us, and the humans weren't scared of them, which means it must have been a regular thing, something that they seen fairly regular. If you seen an 8-foot reptilian walking down the street, it would kind of panic you a little bit. But if you see it every day, every other day, and you're not even going to think about it, you're just going to be like, well, what can we do? That's just how it is. He's walking around. As long as he's not killing you, what's the big deal, right? Janine, what's that? What do you mean? There's not. Okay, you mean believing in Jesus? That's an easy thing. We know he existed. Yes, we know the Muslims talked about him, the Jews talked about him, the Romans talked about him. So it's easy to believe that he's there. And believing in the Son of God. Look, I tell people this all the time. If you believe that, and that's what gives you peace and happiness and health and wealth and whatever, then don't let anybody deter you from it. I'm serious. Don't let anybody deter you from it, because finding something you can believe in is hard enough. So if you do, don't let them deter you. I was raised Catholic, sweetie. Yes, I made my communion and my confirmation, and I did everything you needed to be a good Catholic. And then when my dad died, I'm not going to even say what I said. And a friend of mine talked me into joining the Baptist church, which helped me some. I mean, it did help me a little. And I was like, he was a good friend to me. I really liked his dad and everything. And I can tell you what I said about that. And then I joined the devil worshippers for about 18 months or 2 years. Oh, yeah. Full-fledged. I'm not even going to tell you about that, because most of y'all would be like, oh, my God. And then I met, I shouldn't even tell you about this, but I met Alistair Colley's great-grandson. At first, I thought he was, BSing me and this on. So we did some research and found out he's exactly who he said he was, who introduced me to Marie Laveau's great-grandson. And I studied with them for about 10 years when Linda was studying with Gavin and Yvonne out of, I think they were in somewhere up in the Northeast, one of the small ones, New Hampshire, somewhere like that. Very well known witches, very famous, very well known. And she studied with them for quite some time. And yes, you know, you got to work your way through it. So for contactees or abductees, this is a common thing. They'll believe in God, and when that doesn't give them what they need, they'll believe in something else, and they'll believe in something else. Then they'll follow something else. They'll get into this religion or that religion, or this thing or the other thing until they find what it is they're looking for, which is information about their contact. Yeah, and that's the thing, Tim. They do. All of them do. I haven't met anybody that doesn't have some kind of talking about aliens visiting, especially predating Christ. It seems to be everywhere. Even after. I mean, there's a lot of stories after, but there seems to be a lot more before. Carl, no. What do you mean? Do I think? Well, maybe so, Carl. Maybe Christ was the one that ran the aliens off, even though they're still here. But maybe he's the one that ran them into hiding again. Maybe said, "You're not from here." Huh? But see, there's a problem with that. Okay, so let's assume that Jesus was the Son of God. So Jesus would know who the aliens were. He would have no fear over them, one, because he'd be more powerful than them, and as if he wasn't, his dad was. But more importantly, he would know that his dad created them. He would also know where they were from and what they were doing. So there wouldn't be any fear for him. And why would he feel the need to run them off? Oh, he has a lot of them do. Well, I'm just asking. I'm asking you a question. Why would they feel the need, to run the aliens off? I mean, they created the aliens. So let's look at it from a different point of view. There's 3 alien races visiting the planet. They're here when the Son of God is born. He comes around and he's doing his thing. And he's teaching and loving it, telling people you don't have to be complete idiots anymore. You don't have to have war and stuff like that. And you still have these 3 alien races around. So I would think that if they didn't want them here, they would have removed them at that point. That God or Jesus or one of the two of them would have removed them from our planet. It gets a little sticky wicky up, and that's what I'm saying. It gets strange. Now, Jesus might have completely knew who they were and wasn't worried about them. He knew that they were here for a purpose or whatever they were here for. And he would have went on to what he was doing with the rest of his life. So let's go back and talk about that a little bit. Let's look at how come there always has to be doom and gloom in religion? Is there no scenario when man makes it as a good species and doesn't need to be wiped out? I can see several. I think once we get into deep space and we become a one nation world, and when I say that, I don't mean like a one world government, but a one nation world, and we start to meet other races, why wouldn't we? I don't really think humans are going to go out starting wars with everybody they meet. I think for the most part, most of us are sick and tired of war. And I think that's growing in a bigger movement every day. I mean, look at everybody looking at Russia right now. I mean, really and truly, if it was up to the people of the world, Russia would have already been attacked and wiped out. If the people could vote and wipe Russia out, Russia would be gone. Oh yeah, in a heartbeat. Because we're tired of it. I'm tired of hearing about people getting killed for stupid reasons. So but as an individual and as someone who deals with the public on a regular basis, I think we can change. I really do. I've seen it in a lot of places. First thing you got to do is get rid of media. I mean, stupid media like you see on regular television. But other than that, people ask religious people that all the time. Why don't God do this? Why don't God do that? Why don't God do this? Well, I used to teach Wednesday school, not Sunday school. And the thing about it is, first off, it's not his job or her job or its job to do that. Free choice is free choice, and free choice can suck sometimes because sometimes it bites you in the ass. The same thing with aliens. When people ask me about being hypnotized, one of the first things that comes out of my big mouth is, "Are you sure?" Because there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. Yeah, you can't rub the lantern and put that memory back up. It's out, and it could be a horrible memory. It could be a good memory. It could be an okay memory. It could be a horrible memory. Yes, it could be. And it's something that may stick with you for life. You know, there's things I've seen in my life, which I'm not going to mention any because I don't want to put the memory in your heads, that will always be in my head. Shit, I dumped two of my friends because they sent me a video of something that happened in China, and they spoke to them since. Because it'll never be out of my head. It'll always be in my head somewhere. They were stunned. I said, I can't believe you. That was stupid. So there are things that happens that will stay there for life or for whatever. So there's got to be a way for us as a species to work as a species, not as humans or earthlings or whatever you want to call yourself, Terrans, whatever name is you want to pick. You know, but we need to do it as that way, not China, not America, not Russia, not any of that. Norman, Uncle Joe's not going to be the ruler of the world. We become one world. Don't worry about it. No, don't worry about it. So, oh, Gene, you watch this on Roku? Do I look sexy, baby? I know. Oh, yeah, no tie on. I'm ready. I'm sorry. I'll behave myself. That was just rude on my part. Tamara, be sure, hit me up with an email again because I don't know what's going on. When I checked it the other day, I was talking to Tamara, guys. She sent me some books. It was last time I seen it. It was supposed to be in your country. When they sent me the little tracking code, that's where it was supposed to be. I forgot where it said it was, but I'll find out for you. See, it's weird sending stuff. So the other day I sent something to a friend of mine in England. It got there in 4 days. 4 days. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So I sent a friend of mine something in France. He still ain't got it. That had been 2 weeks. I'm like, what the hell? Canada's right next door. It's not like you got to go, basically from my house to Tamara's, it's just a straight flight up. I mean, it's not. And it's not food. It's not anything that's going to sit in quarantine. It's books. I mean, come on. I'm not blaming anybody's mail because it could be anybody's mail. Besides, it's not regular mail anyway. It was it FedEx or UPS? One of them. Yeah. I ain't sending nothing snail mail. It'll be 6 months before she sees it. Jesus. If it's taking let's spend like a month, not quite a month, for it to get there with them, I can only imagine snail mail. Oh my God. You mean books? I got a couple left, but I got to go through and see what I got. And I gave some to some colleges. Hey, Chad, how you been, man? So we're going to be doing Friday show about Balenciaga, and we're short 2 hosts because Amelia's kids, her kid has just got out of the hospital and is home and doing well, and I think she had to kick the old man out and put him back to work. But so they're doing good, but she's she wants to be there for her. Well, she's not a baby; she's a grown woman, but still she wants to be there for her. And then one of our other hosts, Emily, I'm sorry, it's got some other stuff going on, so it was kind of weird. I thought about rescheduling, but I may do it twice. It's going to be an interesting show. It's going to be a really aggravating show at the same time, but we'll talk about that later. So, Claire, to answer your question, do I believe Jesus existed? Yes, I do. Do I believe aliens exist? Yes, I do. And before we go any further in this conversation, let's not limit the creator, okay? People say, oh, well, you can't have aliens and God. I'm like, why? No one can ever give me a reason why we can't have aliens. I had a priest tell me that one time. I'm like, wait, why? I said, God would have created us. If he can create us, he's damn sure created aliens. He probably created them before he created us. See, people don't like to hear that, especially priests. They don't like to think they're second coming. Okay, they just don't. Yeah, it's icar@cox.net. ICAR@cox.net. Well, because they like to be safe in their beliefs, and when you tell them stuff that makes them not feel safe in their beliefs, they get all upset. Well, no, I don't have any problem with Jesus being the Son of God. My thing is I want people to understand that there was more going on than just that. Even though that's significant and very important, there was other stuff going on. There were things going on, that had been going on long before that event came, and they were already in motion before he was born. Yes, I didn't make this up. This has already been going on. You can just go read ancient history for yourself. There's been stuff been going on for a long time. Well, the reason I don't think the Mesoamericans were in war all the time because there's usually only one of them. It was a Toltecs, and then I think the Incans, Aztecs, and the Mayans, or I might have backwards, but they didn't really were not on top of each other. I mean, they bumped into each other along the line, but it just wasn't like it just wasn't like the Romans and the Greeks were across the Mediterranean Sea from each other. Yeah, they would get into a fight sooner or later. Well, because the Greeks had everything, and the Romans wanted it. Can you blame them? I mean, the Greeks had literature, they had bathhouses, they had everything. They had plumbing. They just, So the Romans were like, screw this. You ever noticed that the Roman gods are just the Greek gods with different names? Don't get mad at me. It's easy to go see for yourself. Don't get all offended. It's and then the Romans ruled for well, basically forever. And then boom, no more. Well, I didn't realize I was going through a map the other day of ancient Rome. Man, Rome owned a bunch of Africa and a bunch of everywhere. I mean, they had everything. Yeah, well, between the Mongols and the what did they used to call them? The ones that used to, not the Vikings, the Anglos. Between between Genghis's people and the Anglos, they kind of boxed them in. Well, they ran them off of Britain. Well, they didn't run them off, but they had to pull their troops off because they needed them for other places in Europe. Yeah, so the English just kind of took over after that. Yes, well, there's a little more to that story than just that I kind of just compacted there. Yeah, that's and that see, and it's probably even more than that because I bet you some of the Toltec sites were taken over by some of the other ones. It makes sense to me that they would just progress because these cities were built to last forever. I mean, they're still there. 3,000 years later, they're still there. Matter of fact, they keep finding new ones. They found another one from space the other day. They're out cutting the grass and weeds out of it. Yeah, big, massive city just sitting in the jungle, nobody living in it. So there's lots of these sites. You just got to stop and wonder where all these people went. I mean, there's lots of these. It's not like it's one or two. It's just big cities. Cities that can hold 500,000 people. And they're just where everybody's going. Where'd they go? They didn't move into the suburbs. There's no suburbs. So what the hell's going on? Yes, the Anglo-Saxons. Actually, it was the Anglos and the Saxons, and they became the Anglo-Saxons. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I was watching I wasn't even watching the show about that. I was watching some show about not Scotland, not Ireland, and that for some reason came up in the show. I have no idea why. Oh, Trish had an Irish lady on this past week. She's pretty good. Yes, for some reason I can understand Scottish women and Irish women. It's some damn Scottish guys I can't understand. They can't understand me either, so it's fair. But it's like, yes, and we walk down the mover. So I was like, what the hell did you just say? Speak English, buddy. I know we speak the same damn language, but obviously we don't. It made me crazy, and I'm sure I make them just as crazy. Who said that? No, Aussies I understand just fine. I got something in common with the Aussies, so we get along just fine. Oh, I like partying with Aussies. I've partied with several too. If I ever get to party with Chris again, him and I are going to tear up a whole other town. It's we painted Los Angeles in 10 different colors. Yeah, I call him Mr. Blue Eyes. He's somewhere in Europe right now. I'll have to get hold to him soon. What's that, Janine? No, we can take a few questions. We got time. Well, I got a couple of things I want to talk about. We got time. What is it? What do you mean am I scared of burning in hell? No, because I don't hate on Jesus. I don't think Jesus. No, I actually tell people leave the man alone. Stop aggravating him all the time. Leave him a break from listening to you whiny bitches for the last 2,000 years. Do you think of it from his point of view? There are 8 billion people on this planet right now for 2,000 years. 2,000 years you've been whining and bitching at the man. I'm surprised he ain't blown the damn planet up himself. I'm being honest with y'all. No one ever stops to think about that. Yeah, God or not, 2,000 years of whining. I would blow your asses up. I can tell you that now. Oh yeah, buddy. You'd be like, no more of this. No, enough of this. I'd be like, you dumbass, you made that choice. No, you made the choice. See, that's why I could never be like that. Girls are pretty. No, we ain't going there. Uh, well, you're saying I'm paying more attention to them. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. What's that one? What you got, Mark? What depends what God you believe in. Technically, for me, and I know I'm gonna cause myself trouble here, the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim God to me is the same God. Y'all might have different prophets, but it's the same God. I'm just telling you what I believe in. Well, the Jews don't argue about it. I mean, they believe in the same God too. They just don't think they don't. Let me explain something to y'all. The Jews do not think any of you are going to heaven. Okay, just so you know that. No, they don't. It's the 12 tribes, 144,000 beings, and they're already there. Heaven is closed unless it's special. It's a special occasion. The Jews don't believe y'all are going to heaven. I'm just telling you what I've been told by many of them, because they don't think Jesus is their savior. They think he was a prophet. That's what their belief is about Jesus, that he was a minor prophet and that the savior hasn't come yet. Well, you can argue with them, but remember this: they are the chosen people. Don't forget that the Jews are God's chosen people. By his own word, there are his chosen people. And don't forget, Jesus was a what? Jesus was a Jew. He wasn't a Christian. No, he wasn't. He was a Jew. Christianity didn't even exist then. That's the point. The point I'm trying to make to y'all is, okay, Jesus was born a Jew. And if he was in temple, like they said he was at 33 or 35, he had to be married to be in temple. Oh, you had to be. That was a rule. So we don't ever want to talk about that kind of stuff. That's why people always talk about the Sinclair bloodlines and stuff. Whether it's true or not, if you were that's what was going on. But he was a Jew. He wasn't a Christian. And it didn't look like he was trying to convert the Jews into being Christians. He just wanted them to be more understanding and stop being greedy SOBs. I don't know. We don't have much written at the time of Christ. There's just not much out there. There's a few things. Part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a couple other things out there. What is it? Aramaic. I always get them confused. There's two different lanes. It's Aramaic, I think. But Aramaic. I always get the two confused. It's just one of the things in my head. Well, see, my argument is this. If you're the son of God and you want the human race to change, wouldn't you have wrote down some rules? I guess maybe he figured they wouldn't work. Daddy wrote down 10 rules and it didn't seem to do shit. I guess it's all in what you want to believe. And the apostles wrote all kind of stuff down. But do you know what the apostles wrote was truth? Prove it to me. Yes, Jesus went all over the place preaching. And people followed him and wrote it down all over the place. Remember, there's a lot more than what's in the Bible, so you gotta prove what's real and what's not. Yeah, isn't that a bitch? I know. Oh, that's true, Tamara. Back in the day, it was a whole entirely different thing. Look, all I can tell you is there's room for both God, Jesus, and extraterrestrials. Again, don't limit the creator because he might shove a stick up your ass or something. Yes, I did say that. I'm just saying, you're going to tell the guy or the girl or the thing that created the entire known universe, and well, for now, the multiverse, since we know it exists, you're going to tell him that you're limited to what he can make. And his best creation of life is us. Is that honestly what you're telling God? No, I want to hear you say this. You're trying to tell me that we're God's best creation and the entire known multiverse. We are it. We are the shit. I ain't believing that. You ain't no way you're going to prove that. I just am not going for that shit. Because humans are stupid. We are our own worst enemy. No, we don't need enemies. We are our own worst damn enemy. We blow each other up. We kill each other. We poison each other. think of this. This is a simple concept. If we would have spent all the money we spent in the last 50 years on war, if we'd have spent it on health, we'd have wiped out everything. We'd have never even had to worry about COVID. It would have been a non-thing. Heart disease would be all but nothing. Cancer would be gone. We would be this super healthy race that was living 150, 200 years. But no, we don't want to do that. How many people did we kill in Germany? How many? 72 million? And you're going to tell me we're enlightened. Christy, I agree with you, baby. We're not this shit. We're not. I would look, I love our planet. I love our species. And I think one day, long day from now, we will beat a chip. We will be the culmination of 3 super races, the Greys, the humans, and the reptilians, and we will become our own, and we will even surpass them, but not anytime soon. We're too interested in killing each other. And if we got off the world right now, if we could get off this planet right now, we'd be out killing somebody else. Oh yeah, we would unite together because we have to go kill somebody else. No, we got to learn not to kill ourselves when we go out in deep space. We won't kill other things. I'm just saying. Oh, there's lots of room for improvement. I've been tongue tied on that. I don't know what the hell that is. That's a lot of times when I come right in from work, right into the show. Sometimes it's like that. I just personally think that whoever's here to help save us and move us forward, just personally thinks that we can do a much better job than what we are. And I've seen glimpses of brilliance in our race. I mean, literally glimpses of brilliance. But for some reason, we just look, oh, and then we go walking along. I'm like, really? Come on, get a grip. Well, it's like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a brilliant individual. But do I trust Elon Musk? I hate to say this. No. He reminds me of the evil villain on James Bond, the one on Moonraker, the guy who built the little base out in space. And I swear, I think he's going to build a base on the Mars, and all these little satellites he's got in space are going to open up some chemicals and kill us all. Oh, I should not have said that out loud. Now, that will be a theory that makes it into public now, just because I said that. Damn it. Wait, let me see. I can read this over here. It's easier for me to read over here. We are. I agree. No, I agree. I agree that it has been hijacked. It's been hijacked for the amount of money it can make and the amount of slavery it can make. And when I say slavery, I'm not talking about slavery like the old days. I just meant, without thinking about it. Marty's a friend of mine, and we've been working on some projects, which I can't mention on air right now, some other projects with some other types of religions. And, it's like a good friend of mine who was a Mormon. He always tells me, we're going to leave this effing planet and go somewhere else. I'm like, well, if God created a planet, why you want to leave it? But he doesn't actually think that. They think they were put here. Yeah, when I ask why, he says he won't answer that. So I think they think maybe we're a prison colony or something, like Australia. But I look at us every day and I see brilliance all around the world. I see ignorance all around the world too. But I see brilliance. And I really, if we have to stop, like in America, it's bad because we have the liberal and conservative thing. And the other one seems to be wants to out idiot the other one. Oh, I'm an idiot. It just seems to be that's where our world is today. And I'm tired of that. I was watching, Greta Thunberg the other day being dragged off by the police. I'm thinking, what is this little bitch doing now? And because she's a troublemaking little thing. I'm all for saving the planet, but let me rephrase that. I'm all for saving the people because we ain't killing the planet. The planet's going to be here long after we're all gone. I tell this to people all the time when they start telling me, we got to save the planet. I said, the planet's been here. I said, what's the worst that's going to happen to the planet? We create global warming and the dinosaurs come back? I said, we might be dead, but the planet's not going anywhere. And people tell me, and I love when people tell me it's going to kill all the food on the planet. Okay. I don't want to sound, well, yes, I do. So the more carbon in the atmosphere, the better plants grow. You do know that, right? So during the dinosaur era, because there was virtually no ice on the planet and the carbon was really, really high, the plants were growing like out of control. And they know that for a fact because they've got the samples, fossil samples. Now, since it's come down some, and now man's contributed. Man's actually doing it a little different. He's carbon monoxide versus carbon dioxide, but we're still, increasing the planet. But what happened? So remember the holes in the ozone layer. Y'all remember that? They're virtually gone now. But yet somehow or another, the planet's still getting hot. Maybe we should have left them damn holes in there so the heat could get out of them. Sometimes you just got to look at us and say, what the hell are we doing? I love our planet. I really do. And anytime I see pictures from space, it makes me realize how small and insignificant we are, and that we need to learn how to keep what we got before someone comes takes it from us. What's that? What you put up there, Marty? Here, let me put it over here. Well, we agree on a lot of things, but I don't know why so many of these religions, like the Muslim religion, it was hijacked to become a movement to try to hurt people and kill people and destroy people, and then they want to say, oh no, well, that's not all of us. Well, of course it's not all of you, but your religion allows for it, and you're the one that condoned it. Well, so the Christians are doing it. No, the Christians are just perverts. They're not starting wars anymore. They got over starting wars after a couple hundred years ago. But they're just perverts. Now they just hide their pervertity all amongst the church. What do you mean, the Jews? Jews are great. They don't do anything wrong. I'm not even going there. I'm not even touching that one. You mean friends? I have pretty much friends from at least 12 different religions, even some really goofy ones, the laughing Buddha and stuff like that. Recently, I've made some friends in Tibet, which was interesting, and they take their religion very seriously. Of course, they believe that you can come back as a strawberry. So I don't know. I'm serious. No, they believe you can come back as anything. You can come back as a damn fish with a hook in your mouth, for that matter. It's just, it's what they believe. Well, they believe everything on the planet's recycled, which is probably true. I don't know if a sentient being is going to come back as a strawberry, but still, I'm not going to. Oh, you mean tomorrow night? I mean Friday night show. Friday night show. It's hard to discuss on this show, but it's let's just say it's going to be. It won't be as bad without the other two with us, but it'll be. And there's just a lot of nasty stuff going on in the world. And thanks to Marty and a few other friends of mine, we've got lots of material we're going to be talking about. From teddy bears dressed up like porn things to all sorts of other stuff. Stuff I can't mention on this show. And when I see that kind of stuff, when I look at the human race and I'm going, and what kind of sick bastards are these? They're the ones that bring all the rest of us down. And the bad part is we let them get away with it. There's so much stuff that we turn our eyes to, our back to, because it's too much trouble, or it can bring us too much trouble. And we have to move past that and grow as a species. Well, I think the aliens are here for a lot of reasons. I don't think they're so much here to change us as they are here to babysit us, but they've got their things that they're working on. And no, they're not here so we can better them. Stop believing that, please, people. The Greys are not going to put our lonely human DNA in them. No, they're not. Greys consider themselves to be at the height of perfection. Yeah, they're not. Brain power, physical power, everything. That's true. Big animals, big plants. Well, that goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago. I mean, you're not going to kill a planet unless somebody puts a planet buster at the core. The planet's going to outlive all of us unless we straighten out. So this planet has about 4 billion years of life left, maybe 3.5 billion, before our sun goes red giant and engulfs us. It's going to engulf us all the way to Mars. Mars will become a very heated planet at that point, but a lot of the outer moons will also become inhabitable for another couple of billion years. So, for us, it's different. I mean, it's when you look at the universe and you realize, first off, the universe is 14 billion years old, and there could be life in surpassing us in a way that we can't even conceive. It's beyond even our imagination of what kind of life is out there. But yet we don't want to accept that it could be out there. We want to say, well, God can't do that. I'm like, really? And I told a preacher friend of mine just the other day about this. I said, well, I want to be there when you tell God he can't do that. He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, you just said he couldn't create other universes or other beings. I said, I want to be there when you tell me he can't do that. As he turns your ass into a toad, I want to be there. And because it's stupid to limit anything that could create the universe can create anything. And for us, we should respect that for what it is. If you're going to believe in an all-knowing, all-seeing, all-creative God, then you have to understand that you can't limit the creator's powers. He can do anything, or it or she can do anything they want and create anything they want on any level they want to. And as far as the Greys are supposed to be somewhere a billion plus years old. The reptilians and the reptilians and humans are somewhere in the mid 500 million years. That's how long they've been alive. Do you know how much more of the freaking advanced they were? Don't even think about their technology. Just think about the knowledge in their heads. We're what, 2 million years? And they're 500 million years. 498 million years older than we are. But yet we're going to think we can even talk to them or understand them on an equal level. Well, sometimes humans amaze me with the egos we've got. I mean, it just floors me sometimes. It's like telling Jesus that he can't create anything. I just wonder about humans in general sometimes. I really do. Well, part of the show tonight was to show you timelines how far back this starts before the birth of Christ, and then what seems to come after the birth of Christ. So it's a weird thing. So if you pay attention to Jesus's birth in the Middle East, in North Africa, and you watch the surrounding areas, what goes on, the wars in the Middle East, the wars in Europe. Yes, think about it. I mean, there was wars everywhere. No, I'm not saying he caused. I'm just saying that you have this generic area where you've seen all these wars. But then you come over across the world to the other side of the world, there don't seem to be near as many wars. Not to say there wasn't some. Well, back then, I don't think they actually called them wars. Not for them. I wonder if we're actually leftovers or if it's something more than that. Well, think about it from this point of view. So, I told you earlier when the human aliens introduced their DNA to our whatever original species was. Then I told you when the reptilians did it. Then I told you when the Greys did it. So we have a race. We're technically a race with whatever our base DNA was, plus 3 of the most advanced alien races in the known galaxy. Yeah, eventually we're going to be, maybe that's why they babysit us, because they know one day we're going to be like, and they're scared too that somewhere along the line, somebody might just pop out. Somebody's abilities just, because look, so you had these 3 and they all had their own contactees. Since then, the reptilian contactees been married to human contactees, the human contactees been married to gray contactees, and so on and so forth. And these children being born keep circling around. They keep marrying back into all these different contactees. So we have a unique species now. Way more than any of these races could have ever thought or even hoped for. So here we are 2,000 years or 10,000 years or 2 million years later, and we have interbred with the Greys, reptilians, and humans on countless times. I mean, our species is probably rising to a thing that even they couldn't understand. And I think it does worry them sometimes because we are a brilliant species. We're brilliantly ignorant sometimes, but we are brilliant. And it may make them a little nervous to know one day that we will surpass them as a super race. But obviously they can't wipe us out. So that's a plus. Or they don't want to wipe us out. I'm not sure why. Well, for them, I think it's a great learning thing to watch us grow and expand and become something else, to knowing that there was direct intervention in what we could turn into. And the whole time, they probably got their finger on the button thinking, well, in case, we'll just bloop. But did we start out as an experiment? No. We started out as a colony, slave colony. That's what we started out as. And then since then, and you can kind of tell because mankind still has a little bit slave mentality left over in his second part of his brain. Humans are easy to follow. It worries me sometimes when I watch people just follow. It's like all these different movements, like the woke movement. I'm watching the woke movement. I'm thinking, y'all are morons, right? And you do know you're morons, right? But yet 15% of our country is just following along. I'm like, wow, that's interesting to see. You mean like the liberals and the conservatives? They're both morons. And they're both morons. Neither one are in it for you and I. They're in it for themselves and their power. Actually, I was impressed for the first time. I actually seen someone in a party stand up to someone else in the same party when they were doing a vote for McCarthy. I was impressed. Everybody's, that's so bad. They shouldn't be like that. No, the object of having a government doesn't mean everybody follows blindly. People, when some stupid shit's going on, someone needs to call it out. Whatever party you're in, and they should call out. Your party should be the one to catch it. But we're not getting into politics. We'll say that for another night. All you got to do is look what's going on with Uncle Joe right now, and you'll know what I'm talking about. You mean you're talking about Canada? Oh, you mean, yeah, I call him Mr. Pink Shorts. Well, the reason I call him that is I caught him in 2 times. One, he was just wearing a pink T-shirt and black shorts. It was for Cancer Month, and then it was 2 days later he was in hot pink shorts and a hot pink shirt, and I'm thinking, whoa, Mr. Trudeau. I didn't even know what to think about that. I really didn't know anything to think about that. When I seen that, I was like, oh my God, man, I feel for every Canadian out there. And then when I seen him get naked and wrap himself in a flag, seeing the United States, we'd have lost our minds over that. As soon as just, you know what, touched the flag, we'd have lost our minds. It would have been on like a big dog. Yeah. Well, it's, in all fairness, the Canadians, they're kind of screwed. There's only like 36 or 38 million. There's only as many Canadians as there's Californians. And they're in a country bigger than ours. So think about it. I mean, their country's about 1.5 times the size of the United States in landmass. And there's only 38 million people living out there spread across the entire country, with a couple of exceptions, a couple of big cities like Toronto and Ontario and places like that, where there's large masses of population, but it's a big place. And it's hard to change things up there. It's a lot harder there than it is here. If you get, once you get a group of whatever's in whatever office, it's hard to get them out. Janine, yes. You know what? I do believe that. I do believe that he is Castro's son. Yes. I seen in the beginning, I told everybody they were crazy. They were sending me all these pictures. And then somebody sent me a couple of articles where Jestro's mom used to go stay with Castro in Cuba, sometimes 3-4 weeks at a time, while Daddy was up here working. He couldn't leave. But apparently Daddy didn't mind because he was down. She went down there a lot. Oh, yeah, there's quite a few documented trips. And then all of a sudden, she had this baby. If you look at Castro's pictures when he's young, they look like twins. In their 20s and 30s, oh, my God. It's definitely his kid. There ain't even no doubt about whose kid it is. So, yeah, y'all have a Castro run in Canada, which makes sense because he's just about communist as you can get. I wish the aliens would pick his ass up. Man, they could do some one-stop shopping for me and pick up Donald, pick up Castro, pick up Joe, pick up Justin. Let's just do a little sweep around the world. Pick up Putin. Yes, pick up Xi Jinping. You know, people like that. Take them for a ride. A good probing trip would be good. I don't know. I can see the power of the free world's coming back after they've been probed. It would just be hilariously funny. Well, you know, Tamara, when you wrote that about the Sumerian flood story, those flood stories are everywhere. When I first started researching, I got in so much trouble in Bible school for this. So I started searching the flood. You know, I'm looking up stuff on the flood. Then I find that, well, wait, the Sumerians had the flood. Well, shit, the Egyptians are talking about the flood. All kind of people were talking about the flood 6,000 years before the flood. I was like, uh-oh, we got a problem here. Yeah, I mean, that's not how that works. And it's not just that. There are other things that are in the Bible that come from other religions or other places, other books. So why did they do that? And then don't ever ask someone who's a Bible thumper if they believe in dinosaurs. Oh, they get offended, especially because they think civilization is only 6,000 years old. I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, dinosaurs exist. No, I said, have you ever seen a skeleton? They freaking exist. It's like she's telling me one day about the planet maybe looped or something like that. So let me tell you something. I said, I've been at 80,000 feet in a jet. Scared out of my ass because I was like, the pod's going to kill us. And you can see, actually, it was about 69, almost 70,000 feet, but you could see the arc in the planet. You could see the stars and you see the arc. It was beautiful. And it gives you a perspective. You know, I would like to go in deep space or just into space, but it gives you a different perspective when you look at our planet. I really think, and it may be Elon, maybe it'll be Blue Horizon, but somebody's going to come up with space tourism that we can afford. No more than a trip to Hawaii, and you can start seeing people go all the time, and it will change them. It's going to change people because when you see this planet from space, I have never interviewed an astronaut that just didn't. So this is what's funny. So if you listen to the interviews from astronauts pre-landing on the moon or pre-going into space, they have a different attitude. After they've been in space and you interview them, they have an entirely different attitude. They look at the world entirely different. It's strange. I heard Neil Armstrong talking about his first time in space, and he was like, "I looked down at Earth and I thought, Jesus, just a little thin ripple of air keeping us all safe." He said, "I never realized how fragile our planet was until I was in space, or how beautiful it was." And I've heard that at least 24 times from astronauts because it gives you a different perspective. And I think once we can get into space, it will. Not just that, when we get space tourists going, more and more people want to push out more. They'll want to have space hotels, with Japan's already got 2 in the thinking about putting up. They want to have one on the moon, one on Mars. There'll be space tourism. We'll be going all over our solar system, and we'll be exploring and colonizing and mining at the same time. That's what you're going to see for the next 500 years coming. Because it's probably going to take that long before we ever get faster than light speed travel. But you notice that, huh? Timelines don't work, and when you start looking at history, especially if you start looking at how man came about, man, there seems to be some funky monkey shit going on up in there. I mean, really. Yes, I've been cursing. It's shame on me. It does. It doesn't. Some stuff just doesn't add up. And well, we used to talk about maybe Atlantis was what caused both the Egyptians and the Toltecs to build temples. Not temples, but pyramids. Well, both races built pyramids, but come to find out, the ones in the Toltecs are only about 3,000 years old, whereas the Egyptian are about 6,000 years old, or 5,000 years old. So it's 2,000 year different there. So no, that's probably not what happened. Even though it does look like Atlantis was maybe in the well, everybody thought it was in the Mediterranean forever. Now they think it's in Atlanta, sorry, in the Atlantic, between the Bermuda Triangle and just right where the Gulf opens up down there. There seems to be a landmass under there. So they think that's where it's at. And then don't forget, there's 2 sunken cities we know of. And there's one in the harbor in Cuba, sitting in, I think, 1,500 or 2,000 feet of water. And there's another on the other side sitting in about 800 feet of water. But it also tells you, think about this. These were above land at one time. This thing is 2,000 feet below the ocean right now. And it was above land at one time. Both these cities were. How long ago was that? When was that? And maybe that'll give us a clue on why things are melting as fast as they are. I mean, yeah, you can blame it on us all you want. I don't have a problem with that, but it seems like it's been going on before man was even a thing. And for some reason, we never talk about that kind of stuff. That in the last 10,000 years, the oceans have risen how much? A lot. 3,000 or 4,000 feet. So, and don't start that with the ice in the water. Okay, look, real quick before I go on to something else. So the only ice that counts is the ice that's on land that's a runoff. Ice in the oceans have already displaced the water. It's like ice in your glass. When ice melts in your glass, it's not going to overflow your glass because it's the ice itself has already displaced the water. It's risen the water when you put the ice in. When ice melts, it's still the same. Hey, don't hate on me. It's science. Don't hate on me. So because I've actually won quite a bit of money with that one. People arguing with me. No, bounce is going to raise. No, it's not. Now the ice that's on land, that's landlocked, that's the ice we got to worry about. That's what's going to raise the oceans. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what's going to raise the oceans. Mm-hmm. And at one time, a good chunk of remember during the Ice Age, from where I live in Louisiana, all the way up and all the way across the world was just a big ice mass. Yeah, all the land was covered. Then eventually it melted. And of course, all that water went back into the ocean. Yeah, I imagine at one time the oceans were really, really, really low. Tamara, I wondered about that one time. I was talking with Buzz Aldrin in Washington, D.C., and we were talking. Buzz Aldrin, who was it? Why can't I think of his name? Damn, another famous astronaut, and he's actually one of the ones that believes in UFOs. But they were both kind of funny when you talked about space. It's like they loved it, but it's almost like something else went on. I think a lot more of the astronauts had experiences than they want to admit to. I really think that's what it is, because I know when I was interviewing shuttle astronauts, they would say, "Well, I can't really talk about this because, at these views it was this, or these views they were that, or these views they were this." I'm like, "What this? What's this, that, and this?" He said, "Well, you figure it out." He said, "This is what you do, right, Joe?" He said, "Don't get me wrong." He said, "Seeing the planet changes your life." He said, "Seeing something fly up on the side of your ship changes it even more." So I was kind of like, "What?" And then, I was asked not to quote it. Well, he's passed now, so I can go ahead and talk about it. But, and I remember interviewing the reporter who interviewed Neil Armstrong when Neil Armstrong said there was a base on the other side of the moon. So, I was trying to get an interview with Neil, which was like impossible. And I met the reporter. I was in Cape Canaveral and down there just doing some press work, and ran into this guy, and we got to talking, and he told me, "Hey, look," because I was talking about Neil being one of my heroes, and he told me about it. He said, "Well, I'm the one who got the original interview." He said, "I have it on tape." He said, "But Neil asked me not to make it public because I think he was running for senator or something at the time." And he said that there was aliens on the other side of the moon. And not only that, he said that they asked him not to come back, not to ever come back on that part of the moon, and to please knock off their things. Well, in the beginning, the government didn't believe him. So the government launched, what was it? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So another 6 missions after that. And then all of a sudden, so 18, 19, 20, and 21 were paid for, by the way. They were bought and paid for. Astronauts were trained. Teams were together. And then we just didn't go anymore. It's really weird for NASA to not use something that's already paid for. And the astronauts and teams are already selected and trained. It just, the whole thing stunk to high heaven. They're like, okay, what are we hiding? And, well, you know what? Somebody asked me the other day, they said, "Oh, we never went to the moon." So on one of the Chinese satellite pics, you can actually see the rover on the moon. On some of the U.S. pics, you can actually see the flag on the moon. Russian used to have a site where you could go see two of the landers on the moon, but I don't know if they have it up anymore since they're at war. Yeah, I tell people all the time. So this is the fact of the moon land. It doesn't matter what you want to say, what you don't want to say. The two questions here you have to ask yourself is: would Russia and China lie for the United States? Is that really what it comes to? Would at the height of the Cold War, at the height of the space race, would after Russia just crashed 2 different ships on the surface of the moon, would they lie and say, okay, well, yeah, United States landed on the moon, no problem? You think they would lie for that? And then it's worse than that. I think there was 125,000 people that worked radio and other tech stuff between NASA and Australia because they were going back and forth. You think all of them would lie? And those were just civilians. They're not going to lie for anybody. There's too many of them to start off with, and you couldn't have paid them all off. And now you've got actual pictures from the sites taken by other countries, actually countries that we're not even friends with. It kind of speaks for itself. Well, one of my friends' favorite argument is there's 3 shadows, Joe. Explain the 3 shadows, Joe. Explain the 3 shadows, Joe. I'm like, what 3 shadows? He said, there's 3 shadows cast. There's 3. I said, okay, there's one cast by sunlight. Yes. I said, there's one cast by planet light. He said, yeah. And I said, there's one cast by the lights on the rovers. He's like, what? I said, there was lights on the rovers. Do you remember that? Oh, shit. Yeah. Oh, shit. Do some research, people. People never take the time to do some research. It took me all of 5 minutes to figure that out. Hey, look, if you don't want to believe, you don't want to believe. It's personally, I don't think there's a belief when it comes to the moon landing. But hey, if that's If that's how you feel and you don't want to think we went there, or you think the Earth is flat, if you think the Earth is flat, I got some really nice flat land down here for sale. It's 125,000 acre. If you're a flat earther, you will love this stuff. Oh yeah, I'm telling you, you will love this stuff. Why would you want to think that? Well, in a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, we will be switching over to the outer realm. Yes, we will. And they will also be on Roku. Yes, we're going to see how Michelle looks. She'd be looking like, ooh, baby, what you doing up there? Satera, I don't know. I don't know when Amelia's coming back. You'll have to. I would post on the Outer Realm site and just say, Marty, I'm a government you. I'm gonna beam your ass up. Oh man. But we were talking just the other day about government PSYOP programs and different programs the government have used in the past for screwing with people's minds, including using drug altering stuff from sodium mannitol, sodium pentothal, and LSD. Matter of fact, I was listening. This is so weird. I'm riding home today listening to the news, and this NPR special comes on with this girl who's a singer in Tennessee, and she's talking about what made her leave college was doing. She kept calling it something else, but it was LSD. And she said to get her career going again, she says, this girl is really into some LSD. And I'm thinking, you shouldn't even be talking about this on the radio, people. Oh, I don't know what we're going to do with our government, but something needs to change. I want to see strong, healthy, strong leadership. I want to see life better for everybody on the planet. The government loves you. If you hear a knock at the door, it's the government coming to give you a hug. That goes for all of y'all tonight, by the way. If you hear a knock at your door, it's only Uncle Joe coming to give you a hug. Not this Uncle Joe, the other Uncle Joe. Besides, guys, don't forget Friday night, Santiago. It's going to be an interesting. We're not going to have the whole crew there, so we're going to do it again in 2 weeks after that. But meanwhile, we want to get this rolling. So, Nancy, you mean we're going to talk about that? The 12-year-old fake kid thing. Oh my God, have you seen these things? Oh my God, I'm gonna get some pictures for the show. Oh, I mean, they look like kids. Oh no, it's no. I can't really get into it on the show because I don't talk about that kind of stuff on the show. But I'm thinking about, since we're on Roku now, I'm thinking about just starting just a sheer conspiracy show, because my conspiracy group, which is 4 girls, there's no guys in it for some reason, that send me stuff all the time, are excellent, by the way. And what is great for me is when they start tagging me with the same stuff, then I know they got something. Oh yeah, and they're good. And I enjoy it all. I argue with all 4 of them, by the way. I know one of them's in the room. I give her shit all the time. I'm sure this time she wants to just crawl through the phone and slap the shit out of me. God damn it, Joe! I'm telling you, this is what it is. But this is important stuff that needs to be talked about. This is a political thing. That's why it's not being talked about tonight. It will be on Essentialist, and we will be getting deep into this. This is not for the light of heart. It's not for the faint of heart. It's really not for children at all under the age of 21. Really and truly, this is hardcore material that bounces through a lot of companies. It's really strange where someone, and be honest with you, 2 hour show is not even would be near enough, because just following some of the links that have been sent, what I mean by that is links from this group to that group to that group to this group to that group, is insane. The link from company to company to company to company to company is insane. How many people are tied up in one company? And then today, Amelia sent me a bunch of stuff on Epstein, so it might sneak its way into it too. But we got to get out of here, because I know the Outer Realm will be coming up next in just a few minutes. So be sure to hang out with. And remember, y'all can see her on Roku now. Any of y'all that have a crush on. Oh, wait a minute. Where's the little lesbian girl at tonight? Are you listening? If you've got a crush on Michelle, you got Roku. Oh my God, she's in 70-inch delight tonight. Chrissy, thanks for stopping by. Marty, thanks for stopping by. Tamara, thanks for stopping by. You said you sent me that, so I'll check on that, and I will text you later tonight and let you know what the hell's going on with that. And other than that, guys and girls, y'all have a good night. See y'all next week, and I'll be back Friday causing trouble. Real trouble. This was just sweet trouble. Well, I get to chit chat and we lose half of what I was talking about tonight. But this is a conversation that'll go on for a couple of weeks. Well, it's hard to explain, but it'll branch out into some other stuff that we're working on. Again, good night, everyone, and thank you for hanging out. Be sure to stay tuned for The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Good night, everybody.